All right. Hello and welcome. How are you doing on what I hope is a wonderful, I almost said December.
You're doing it again, Matthew.
I am. And I'm being consistent with my gap in time. There's a hole in
In
my
your time,
in my time. Yes, in my time.
in your temporal mind.
Yeah, and Omni, he's confused. He can hear me. And hey,
I
Gorilla
know.
Random Thought, I will say hi to you because I do like you. Yeah, but what year
Hello,
is it?
gorilla.
It is this year.
Good answer.
It's this year. No, so one of the things I'm doing right now, I was trying to see if I have it in arm's reach, which I don't. But I'm going through a packet and memorizing like key dates and stuff from the Bible. What are key passages that are in each book? And so my mind is just like overflowing with dates and names and verses and stuff. So I think I'm doing pretty good to know that it is not December before I say on this lovely December. No, and there's the freeze. Excellent. Got that done and over with.
Out of the way. And Joel Miller, I'll say that the year is 2259.
Very good. It is, and we're at the hour of scampering. We're on fire tonight.
We are. Awesome.
But how's your weekend been?
Pretty relaxing, actually.
Awesome.
Didn't do a whole lot this weekend. Got ready for the stream.
Yeah, you can watch things ahead of time. Like I come in here so just like no idea what's about to happen. I make
Well, that's the way
guesses.
it's supposed to be.
It is.
But
And
yeah, I put up a TV guide listing, and I also watched actually listened to two podcasts on the episode before watching the episode. Then I go to the Lurker's Guide to Babylon 5 for episode information. I also go to the wiki for Babylon 5 for the episode, get some
wow,
information. I also check out Memory Alpha, just
they
see if
have a
there's some
Babylon 5
crossover.
entry? Oh,
Well,
for
just
characters.
I put in entries for people that are on the episode to see if they were on Star Trek.
You know, I usually do that, but I didn't today. And so I'm real
Oh,
curious to see if I recognize anyone.
well, we do have a few.
I guess what I should say is I'm real curious to see who I fail to recognize.
Time will tell.
It will. And hey, I had a youth camp this weekend for our middle school
Oh,
kids.
did you
And
lose any kids this time?
no,
Oh, I'm scared to
but
ask. What? But here's the but, folks.
okay, so I almost drove the kids off the road.
Oh my dear Lord.
Qualifying sentence. Like, hey, let me bury the lead there. I am deliberately presenting this as dramatically as possible for some humor, but there's also a lot of truth to this sentence. So, we're driving to and from a couple different places that we're having our events at this weekend, and so it's nighttime, and I got four kids in my car with me, the middle school kids, and we're coming back to the place we're staying at, and there is a lot of construction going on in this area. And so uh, the exit has moved about half a mile sooner than where it was 2 months ago, 3 months ago now. So I'm driving like, oh wait, I think I missed the exit, and then the exit appears in front of me where it used to be. And so they still have like the glue stuff for what used to hold down the reflecting lines, and it
Uh-huh.
shows it goes off the road that way.
Oh
And
no.
and there's a ramp there even. Like the
Uh,
ramp is still existing. And so and there are orange cones set up, but people ran over the orange cones and they are no longer blocking the exit anymore. And so what I see orange cones, gap, lines pointing to the exit, orange cones. I'm like, oh, Good. I didn't miss the exit. So here I am going, and I go, oh, this is not an exit. I see impending doom in front of us. And, I gently course correct. So it wasn't like, swerving and braking and, we're all going to die, Mr. Bennett. No, like, but it was one of these things where I was like, wow, that could have been really bad because it's nighttime and they really need to do some better jobs of like there's what do you call them, a barrier, one of those wooden do not enter things. Uh-oh. Hold on, I lost my leadership. SciTube's trying to play. Let's pause that real quick. Okay. uh hey, stop that. Okay, sorry about that. So yeah, there's one of those wooden barriers that says "Do not enter"
Right.
at the end of the ramp, right before you drive into oblivion.
That's a great place to put it.
Well, I was glad it was there, but I would have much preferred those big orange cones, like continuing their line, saying, "Hey, by the way, we know all the paint on the ground, all the leftover reflector glue. It's pointing you off the ramp right here." It's not there. So that was fun. But we're all safe. I got us all. Like, I'm actually
So,
pat myself on the back here. I'm actually a phenomenal driver. Uh, so I saw this and I'm like, okay, we're all fine. And when the kid who was in the front seat with me is like, oh wow, that was bad. I'm like, yeah, it was. Don't tell the youth pastor. No, I
so
didn't say
you just
that.
tell everyone on YouTube.
I didn't say that. No, I haven't told him, but it's mainly because I forgot, because we were so busy. But I
You
actually can't wait to tell him.
forgot. You
I did.
forgot. Okay. Well, I'm glad you're okay. And all the kids are safe.
Of course. Yeah, the cones, they just weren't there. It's the weirdest thing on me. But it was fun, and it made for a fun memory.
God was with you.
He was. Uh, and on the completely other end, so hey, random Matt is random. I had a random thought.
Uh-oh.
Vegans should be okay with eating chicken eggs. Because chicken eggs are unfertilized. They're produced by the hen regardless of whether or not there's any chicken in it.
Hmm.
Now, you could say it's about cruelty against animals. And I would say, hey, my dad was the same way. He wasn't a vegan, but he couldn't stand the thought of those poor little chickens shoved up in cages. And so he would buy cage-free chicken eggs. So, or maybe not vegan, but vegetarians. Vegetarians should be okay with uh, chicken eggs. And yeah, Shai's saying it's an animal byproduct. Yes, not vegans, vegetarians, because vegans are more concerned with like the entire anything animal related. But for vegetarian, they're not. It's not meat. It's not harming the chicken in any way, especially if you get cage free. Like, hey, you can go for it. You don't have to cheat with fish. You can have chicken eggs and get some good protein.
I have to ponder that one for a while.
Anyway, just one of those random thoughts I had right before we got
Amy
going
says, Amy says, good luck with that.
here. Thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, I think we can really get this going because I bet there are many vegetarians out there who feel guilty about eating fish, but they're like, they're making an exception. They don't feel the way the mammals do. Um, Maybe it's less cruel because they're all out there in the ocean. Hey, here's something where you don't have to feel guilty anymore, vegetarians. You can eat chicken eggs because it's literally harming none of them. Get cage free. That way they're just out there roaming the range, not being harmed. Great alternative.
Yeah, I'll have to think about that one.
And of course, I mean, as not a vegetarian, I really don't have much of what was it called? Dog in this fight, stake in the game. Uh, and that's your children of the egg. Is this? Oh no, that was not the line from the Babylon 5 episode, right? They're children of the, was it egg? The one that was about accepting surgeries.
Yes, believers.
What was it? Children of the egg?
It was.
Ah, priceless. Yeah, unless you're children of the egg, then don't eat them. That would be very wrong.
That's a good catch, Omni. Joel wants to know which came first, the chicken or the egg.
Theologically, the chicken. Easy answer. God created everything in a mature state, ready to produce offspring. Chicken came first.
Makes sense.
Yeah. And yeah, 2x2 into the ark. There, that's the one we quote because that was the minimum number. But there were many animals that were specifically he was told to take 7 of each of them because they'd be used in the worship of God later on, and so he said specifically take 7 of these animals. But everyone remembers the 2x2 because that's what we're told from our infancies, the child story. You got little white Noah there with the gray beard. Like all the children picture books of like of Christian stories are just so horribly like westernized. Yeah, the Velociraptor came first. Maybe it. Well, it depends on if they would have been considered part of the lizards or part of the mammals.
Well, supposedly the birds came from the dinosaurs.
Oh yeah, under the evolution, yeah. But I mean, just in terms of even biblical creation, let's see. You had the birds, you had the fish. I guess I guess it comes down to how much time passed between he said that there be and there being, what order came. It doesn't go into that detail.
No, it doesn't seem to.
Yep, then the rainbow. So, to say dinosaurs were birds, there's actually been some debate on that recently. There's been a lot of questions about the geological records where the bones we have, what they believe were, I forget the scientific name for it, but the spot where the feather would connect to the bone, or connect not to the bone, but where the feather would interact there. There's some question like, is this actually what we're seeing, or is this pit marks caused by time or the fossilization process? Like, there's some questions going on. Some of the more what historically we thought were conclusive examples have ended up being where you'd have one creature dying under the other, where it's like, oh hey, here's clearly a feather imprint underneath this velociraptor. They've come back and been like, oh, actually, we're not too sure about this one. That's one of the crazy things about geology. Like, the more you study it, the more you don't know what happened. like everything we know about geology, we have to base on assumptions of other assumptions in geology. Like, there's a fascinating thing where, and this was something
on each other.
Yeah, this was something I didn't know for the longest time. Because in school, you're like, oh yeah, you can figure out how old a tree is based on counting its rings. The rings are only accurate if you know when the tree was planted in the first place. Because like it turns out, like, in seasons of extreme drought, you won't get a ring. And in seasons of extreme not drought, rain, monsoon, whenever you get a lot of rainfall, you can get double rings. And in places where there are volcanic activity, you can get fake rings where the volcano exploded, and you'll actually get a ring of ash in the tree line. Like, the tree will grow around. And so like we make so many assumptions about, oh yes, this happened at this point, this happened at this point, and all this stuff happened, and it's like actually like we're making a lot of assumptions in all this. Yeah. Excuse me for not knowing the correct name, Patrick. Extreme rain, precipitation. There we go. Precipitation.
And Omni is asking, didn't the hadrosaurs end up leaving Earth in spaceships and heading to the Delta Quadrant?
You know, I think I saw a documentary about that once. It was only about 45 minutes long,
Oh,
but yeah.
okay. Yeah. Thought you might have.
Yeah, in fact, I should probably at some point do an episode talking about that documentary I saw.
Might be prudent.
It could be real fun.
I bet it could. I think you have a little ways to get there, but yeah.
Yeah, Shai's saying that according to Genesis 7, pairs of the clean animals were taken onto the ark. And then it's interesting because the clean animals at that point wouldn't have been actually like codified. It wasn't until Moses and God giving him the law that he defined what clean and unclean were unclean and clean was. I think that sentence works. It shouldn't sound like it does, but it does. Anyway, Babylon 5. I made a guess last week about what this week was going to be.
You did.
Could you enlighten us?
Yes, I could do that. So the episode is All Alone in the Night. And your prediction was that Drawl comes back, or we see someone like Drawl on another listening outpost. And the darkness is gathering. It is affecting how Drawl, or whomever it is, can be in the Great Machine.
Yes. Yep, that sounds right. And I'm interested to see if I'm right. Probably not. I mean, it seems like whenever I actually end up miraculously getting right, which last episode, gave myself a 75% on that one in terms of rightness.
Fairly well.
Yeah. So I'm guessing 0%, 0% this week, which would be funny because, this week I'm like, oh wow, Alone in the Dark, like clearly this must be talking about this. Whereas Gropos, I'm like, I don't know, stuff. Who could say with an unclear, ambiguous name like Gropos? So it's going to be the exact
I helped
opposite.
you out a little bit.
You did.
Omni says you're exactly 100% right. On to next week.
Okay, wow. Moving forward then, we will not be doing All Alone in the Night apparently, but whatever comes next. Give me just a minute to cue this up. Well, I'll tell you what, we're all here anyway. We'll do All Alone in the Dark anyway.
Sounds like a plan.
But I actually, just thinking about the title name right now, it would be very fitting. I'm not changing my guess. I'm just talking out loud. It would be very fitting for, there's a common sci-fi trope where you will have a character who finds himself increasingly isolated. Like everyone around them is disappearing. Beverly Crusher had an episode about this where she got trapped in a subspace vacuole, I think it was. And everyone would disappear as the space shrank, and she'd be the only person.
One of Wesley's warp bubbles.
Yeah. And then there's an episode of Eureka where the same thing was happening to Sheriff Carter. Which, if you haven't watched Eureka, that's a real fun one. And it's actually one of the ones that my wife really enjoyed as well, because
I like Eureka.
Oh yeah, it's incredibly fun. But it's one of those ones where, in addition to there being a very strong sci-fi element, there's also a very strong relationship element. And so it was a very well balanced series that my wife and I, with very differing opinions on what makes for a good TV show, could enjoy this quite equally well.
So the TV guide listing for this episode was, while en route to a secret meeting to discuss war strategy with Lord Rifa, Londo's cruiser suffers engine failure, leaving him alone and stranded near the edge of Narn space. Fascinated with Dolores's hair, Lanier attempts to grow his own, with disastrous consequences.
I like the effort you put into these. because I could actually see them having a B plot episode where Lanier, what it's just like, I'm gonna try this. Like I mean, he already made. They already did a kind of joke about that where he looked at Dolores's hair and he's like, nah. But, I could see something like that. And Texas is saying that he stopped watching Eureka around the time they got into the alternate timeline. Yeah, you know, poor Eureka. They had, I want to say they had like two writer strikes happen during its course. Because there was originally a plot line that they were developing about this alien artifact at the center of the facility. And what does it mean? And then they kind of forgot about it. Like the either the writers quit or they had to change out teams or a writer strike happened, something happened, and they just got rid of it. And then it happened a second time, and they went to the alternate timeline, and it had a rough season, but it bounced back Texas after that.
I still think it was a fun series all the way through.
It was, yeah, and
I liked
Wesley
it.
did show up, but he also like he didn't win. He didn't win. Uh, I don't want to spoil it too much, but Wesley was there, but he was more often the butt of the joke than like the actual Brainiac. Although, yes, technically everyone in the town was a Brainiac. Whatever.
Fair point.
All right, so let's go ahead and transition over to this. If you are here for the first time, or just me doing my usual spiel, here's the way this works. I have already proactive, like even before the stream really began, I dropped the link to the screening room there in the chat. So by all means, come and
Amazing,
join us.
folks.
Right? Right? I'm really getting my life together here, being on time for stuff and dropping links in chats and I don't know. But come join us in the screening room. This just makes sure that we're all watching it at the same time. You don't have to come here if you want to watch it on your own DVDs or you own it on Amazon or you just want to, for whatever reason, watch it on oh, I want to say Tubi TV, but that's not right. Yeah, Tubi.
Tubi TV. Yeah.
Yeah. Uh, you can watch it there. In fact, Tubi TV has it for free. You just watch it with ads. And then, of course, all the major streaming services have it as well. I won't be offended if you don't want to watch it in my screening room. But if you want to be like really synced up within, I don't know, a second or two at worst, come here, syncs us up. If you're here in the future, sorry, you got to use your own stuff. The screening room won't be active beyond this stream right now. If you're on like a cell phone device or you just can't have two tabs open, I don't know, whatever the reason, you can only see us right now as we talk about it. We got you covered. We're going to do clips, just one clip every 7 to 9 seconds of no audio, just a still image so that you have some sort of reference for what's going on in the show, even if I'm being distracted down a new rabbit trail about something going on.
That does happen, folks.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Hey, I'm talking about vegans and chicken eggs, so you never know what's going to happen, man. It's a crazy
I try to
place.
keep them on track, but
it's a crazy, just incredible land up in this head of mine, guys. I appreciate you coming along for the ride. But with that said, let's go ahead and get this started. I'll give us a quick 3 countdown, then I'll hit the play button so we can all hopefully be all synced up together. So here we go. 3, 2, 1. Hit that play button, everyone. And exactly, Texas, it's a Life with Matthew stream. And Trevor Lauren, I did see what you did there, to be or not to be. Whether 'tis nobler in the mind to suffer the slings and arrows of the Narn. Okay, so they are bringing up kind of 2 relevant plot points about Dolores. One is the fact that she was offered the leadership position of the Grey Council. And for the first time in I forget how many generations, she turned it down. Like she's the first Mbari to turn down this position when offered to in a long, long time. The second issue that they're bringing back up is that now that she's become this hybrid being between the Mbari and humans, there is a lot of questioning about whether or not she's even qualified to be on the Grey Council. Is she really Mbari anymore? Gorillas, to turn up the sound, you will have to use whatever audio device you're using and just turn that volume knob up. I have no control over your sound audio.
There is volume control to the lower left of the image.
And it may have been a quiet scene for all I know. They were kind of whispering. And that's true, Patrick.
You're,
You can turn me down a little bit. You can turn down the sound on YouTube down a little bit. So Sheridan wants to do a uh, quick stroll around the galactic neighborhood, so to speak. And of course, he says the thing you should never say: "What could possibly go wrong?"
it'll be all right.
And that was a Imbari ship, wasn't it? It looked
That was an orange ship.
okay.
The other ship, the attacking ship, we've never seen before.
Oh, sorry. The attacking one is what I was talking about.
Oh,
Yeah,
no,
yeah. I
we don't know
recognize the
that ship.
Narn. I admit I'm really bad at faces and stuff. I did recognize a Narn and the Narn ship, but the attacking ship I thought kind of had that kind of spherical look that Imbari ships seem to have. Because they've done a nifty job of really or distinguishing each race's ships as being unique.
Yeah, they have done that. They've done a good job with that.
Which is it's something I really appreciate when sci-fi series do. Um, it makes a quick and easy reference to be like, okay, we're dealing with the Klingons right now. We're dealing with the Romulans, the Borg, whoever. Or even in shows where it's all humans, like Firefly, you would have the very posh big ships, and you're like, okay, this is the Central Alliance worlds, and then you'd have like the raggedy ones. You're like, okay, this is the Outer Worlds or the smugglers.
Now, Texas is right. We have seen the actor that plays that Narn before, just not as a Narn.
Oh,
That's Marshall Teague, and he
the name's
played the
familiar.
assistant. He played the assistant in Infection back in season 1.
A Narn
Nelson,
assistant?
no. Remember Dr. Franklin's instructor that came on? He was looking for technology.
Oh,
His
okay.
assistant. He's the one that got transformed into the war machine.
Yes. And, and I mentioned the Mbari ships were more like tubular looking. Uh, no, no. I was thinking more of that blue pattern. I don't know why I equated that with tubular, but I did. so, so Lanier is insisting that he goes with Dolores, that she doesn't have to face this alone. And she makes a comment like, "Have I ever told you how much I appreciate you?" And he goes, "No, but it'll give us something to discuss on the journey." So I wonder if Kiefer will be here. He's getting a flight escort.
Do you mean Kefir?
Yeah, Kefir.
Ivanova already said that he's sick.
Oh, he was the one that's sick that's causing her problems. Yeah, he's still hungover from the grow posts, and his heart is sick with sorrow.
Yeah.
Hey, so they're saying the Dodgers will never make it to the World Series. Were they in this year's World Series?
Yeah, I believe they won it.
So I mean, technically, they're like, what are we, 135 years in the future? So I guess the Dodgers, maybe they're in a slump in this time period.
230.
230. Okay.
Now, of course, Marshall Teague was a Jem'Hadar as well as a Voth in Star Trek.
I missed his Helen Keller line. Uh, he's trying to mention a
It,
baseball player from the
I think
Dodgers.
he was, no, I think he was comparing Helen Keller to
Oh,
the Mars team.
well, fortunately, the other guy didn't know history.
Notice the stars are spinning now.
I didn't notice. We were talking about that like 2 weeks ago.
We were. I think that would make me sick looking out that window all the time.
Yeah. I don't know. Because, they have those laser projectors that make it look like spinning on the ceiling.
Yeah.
So I wonder if in real life, if your mind would rebel against the spinning, like you have the sensation of not spinning, just being pulled downward. You have the sensation of being pulled downward by gravity, but your eyes are telling you are spinning. I don't know. That's an interesting. Because okay, this is actually something super fascinating. They've done tests on this in real life, but the fluid in your ear. So if you sit in a chair and you close your eyes and you're spun and spun and spun, and they keep spinning you at a constant speed, and they say, "Hey, tell us what's happening. What you think is happening." The person will say, "Okay, I'm spinning," and then they'll say, "I'm slowing down. Keep the rotation going at the same rate," and eventually they'll say they stopped. And then as you slow them down, they'll say, "Okay, now I'm starting to spin in the opposite direction." Like the fluid in your ear uh, will get used to the motion you're doing and assume that this is correct.
Hmm.
So on a space
Interesting.
station, they wouldn't feel the sensation of spinning per se. In theory, you'd be like, "I'm just on in gravity." Do I mean they'd get vertigo? No, I don't think so. Like he the guy that they did this experiment on, I forget which astronaut it was, but he didn't have a vertigo sensation. He had a sensation that he had literally just stopped moving. Now, to be fair, it was because his eyes were shut and he didn't have the visual stimuli of continuing to spin while his ears told him that he was motionless.
That's one weird looking ship.
It is. I was just thinking that. Like, it looks almost put together from other ships. Hey, Darkstar 4400, welcome to the stream. How you doing, man?
Welcome, Dark Star. You're right. You're right, Omni. It's not symmetrical.
So Sheridan's been captured, and this guy who may win 30 credits off of Dr. Franklin is, shall we say, alone in the dark.
Uh-oh.
And the radiation is already at terminal levels. He's already a dead man. I mean, to be fair, they say terminal level. I don't know if it is saying even with medical science where it is at in this year 2259 that he can't be saved at all at this point, or if it's saying that without um, without immediate medical intervention, he's at terminal levels already.
I guess we'll have to wait and find out.
Yeah, I mean, the way he's responding at this moment, I would certainly believe that at least he thinks that it's terminal no matter what. I do remember this guy. He was the one that got lost in not hyperspace.
No,
What did they call hyperspace?
no, it is hyperspace, and that is not the one.
It's not. It wasn't his ship. That was the long distance one.
No, this is General Haig, played by Robert Foxworth. He was in the first episode. He contacted Ivanova over intercom, Stellarcom, excuse me, and told her that Sheridan was going to be the new captain.
Okay, so who's the guy I'm thinking of? Did he also have a beard?
Captain Maynard.
Okay, hold on.
So this is General Haig. Of course, he played, Robert Foxworth played Admiral Layton in DS9. He was also Volos in Enterprise.
So he's on a very organic looking ship right now. Increasingly organic looking. I don't want to. I don't want to look up too much information, unless I get spoilers.
This looks very scary.
Meanwhile, with the Grey Council,
I think it's a neat set. It's very simple looking, but very cool looking.
it has a nice imposing feel without a lot of clutter. So oh, okay. So she goes to the mantra about being between the border of the two different things, and this guy comes back on and he says, "Well, they're not coming. You've been summoned, but not to be part of the Nine, but to face judgment. We told you to wait, and you disobeyed."
We've seen him before. His name's Copeland. He was in also the first episode of this season. And it's funny, he played a character on Voyager. This is Robin Sachs. He played a General Valen
Okay.
in the episode The Void, which is interesting. Valen, we've heard that name on this show.
I trust you on that.
In fact, we'll hear the name in this episode, I believe.
So she wants to make her case between the nine, and he was making a comment about how they no longer know what her heart is. That she's been so corrupted by humanity. He doesn't know the extent of that corruption, basically. And so she said, "I want to make my case, but whoop, sorry about that. I want to make my case between them or before them." And he said, "Okay, well that's your right." And she asks, "Who has replaced me?" And he doesn't answer, which which makes me wonder if it's going to end up being Lanier. Like that'd be a bit of quite the turnabout. Like, oh,
That would be.
it turns out I came not because, or not just because I wanted to escort you, but because I was replacing you.
Ooh,
Like, I kind of imagine it wouldn't be him. It'd be very dramatic, but um, imagine not. This is making me think of that episode from TNG where the four different people were brought into an alien chamber. They were trying to figure out how to get out. It turned out one of them was the alien who was researching them in general.
does have
The alien,
some
yeah.
similarities. Allegiance was the episode.
Okay. Like I am making the basic assumption that this is another prisoner, and this is not the race that is experimenting
Oh,
on him.
it skipped.
It did
Not skipped, but it
reverse
replayed a few
there.
seconds.
Oh, it looks like I was disconnected for a second and then reconnected.
Okay. It's it's the Narn that was captured.
Oh, is it? Oh, he had a weird thing on his head. Okay.
It's what's controlling him.
The Narn is asking to be killed. So, Josh, I didn't see anything on the first guy's face. I didn't
It was
notice
there
anything.
too.
I did see him grasp his head at one point. I just missed the
In
apparatus.
fact, Sheridan was telling him to fight it.
But Franklin is concerned about his patient. Apparently, he's absorbed so much radiation that he's actually in danger of contaminating all of Babylon 5. So Franklin's working as quick as he can to save this guy's life. Which I mean, Franklin, he's really kind of expecting more than himself than he probably ought to. I mean, if someone has just logistically speaking, if someone has absorbed that much radiation into his system, like even in the future, could medicine really undo that kind of damage? He does have the machine. That's true, Omni.
But it's a little bit too late now.
Now, I did notice the last of the Grey Council who walked up. I'm not sure if it was just the lighting, but they looked to be in a more white outfit than kind of the gray as everyone else. I think it was just the lighting. Now they look like they're all in that gray outfit. So she's making an impassioned plea that, for 20 years she served on the council alongside them. She calls many of them friends. And so this is the one that's been chosen to replace her. And is that the general?
He's the one from season one, the episode Legacies, where they had the warrior caste leader that died, and they were taking him to different places.
Yeah, the samurai general looking guy. And Nami's saying that, yeah, she just said that what have you done? It's supposed to be three from the worker caste, three from the religious, and three from warrior, and that by giving him the position, uh, now there are four from the warrior caste, which makes it off balance. And so he's saying that when I joined the council, I was told a reason for our surrender. I didn't know whether to laugh or weep. If I had been told, if we had been told the truth for it, we never would have surrendered. Which is kind of the main issue here, isn't it? With why they didn't want an imbalance between the castes. And so he's very much casting her out,
They all
saying
did.
she wanted to be the go between, go live out your fantasy and be that go between. Go back to Babylon 5 and stay there. Being being a part of neither race.
Dolores also said that Valen had set up the council 1,000 years ago.
Okay.
So there's the name Valen. No, not General Valen, Omni, just Valen.
I do like though that with the appointment of the warrior cast and now the balance being off, this continues the progression of this season where the the darkness kind of spreading over the universe in general and how it's starting to affect races to be in a more aggressive stance. I mean, really starting with Londo's choice to join up with discount Rod Sterling. all the races have been like the moment at the crossroads. We've been steadily progressing toward that point of war, and just each race doing things that make sense for them at the time, but each race is choosing to take more aggressive stances. And as each race is choosing that aggressive posturing, the other races are doing it as well. So like you had the Narn going on to the offense now that they're fighting the Centauri. Uh, Humanity invaded the rebel colony of the unnamed race a couple episodes back. Now you had the Imbari taking up a more aggressive stance with the appointment of a fourth warrior, which is going to throw things off and make them inherently more warlike. So it's just interesting because I mean, it was literally just like one event, and two because Londo did use Sterling a second time.
I think the Membari is more a result of the um, surrendering at the line.
You think so?
And Dolores's change.
See, I guess I was thinking even with Dolores's change that, and even with the line, they could have picked another priest, and they simply chose not to. Like I guess I was making the assumption that the reason they wanted another warrior cast, I guess, yeah, the change with Dolores there, maybe a bit of a rebuke against her. Like what's more rebuking than taking away the position the priest cast?
I think many of them on the council doubt the reason was that she made the change was necessary. They doubt the prophecy from Valen about what's supposed to happen.
Yeah, Josh, the Warriors are still hurt about how the Earth War ended, but I mean, the Council wouldn't necessarily care about that.
Well, a third of them are anyway,
Well, yeah,
probably.
yeah. So I mean,
Now, 4/9.
true. But when you think about it, that means that you would have had to at least two of the workers. Like I would assume that the two priest cast. Well, there would have been eight. There would have been eight of the nine left because Dolores would have been omitted from this. They would have had the three warriors voting for another warrior would probably be a given. And then as long as you just had two of the worker casts with them, that would give you a majority at that point. And they could have assigned a fourth priest or fourth warrior cast guy. Yeah, Texas, the Aggies back. The Agamemnon.
Yep,
Agamemnon.
there it is.
But I mean, it is interesting by destroying the balance. It really, really is
You
gonna
want to
make
pay
things
attention to this.
okay. The crow from Data's dream? The dove on Garibaldi. Bit of a juxtaposition for a man of security. So Kosh is saying that he had the dream of Kosh, and he said, "Why are you here?" And his Kosh's response was, "We've never been away. It's just for the first time, your mind has been quiet enough to hear me."
You might have missed it. At one point in the dream, Sheridan was wearing a Psycop uniform.
Okay, so I did see the uniform, but I didn't make the Psycor connection. It was interesting to see Ivanova with the crow, and then in a kind of a funeral garb, and
Uh, sort,
Garibaldi,
sort
hmm?
of a veil.
And Garibaldi with the dove. And so Dolores is saying that she has encountered this species before, the Stribes, and they are uh, they constantly probe and test people's defenses. So Sheridan is trying to wedge the door. It's open a little bit. Well, it was. So it's an interesting concept for a race. Oh, and here comes the Aggie, I bet. There it is.
Yep.
Uh, it's an interesting concept for a race because you have to wonder, like, are they being truly malicious or are they being uncaring? Like, if there's a race that communicated in a truly different way than the rest of every other race out there, like 100% pheromones, let's say, such that it was impossible to communicate with them, then they might assume that everyone else they encounter lacks sapience or sentience. Yeah, sapience. And so what they would be doing would be research without cruelty, perhaps. I'm assuming these are some pretty cruel people, for the record. I'm just saying that's an interesting concept. And they're having a real Darmok kind of moment here. The two of them working together. Ha! They're dressed up like traditional Greys.
Oh, this is the Streeb, which is short for Whitley Strieber.
Who's that?
He is an author who's also a highly known supposed alien abductee.
Huh. So they intentionally jettisoned themselves?
The stream, they jettisoned all the aliens that they had captured.
Hmm. Okay, they jettisoned the prisoners and okay, I see now. I thought
Yeah,
we the way they did that shot, I thought the captain had jettisoned himself as the best hope of survival, but
no, no, they got in the escape pod.
and hey, Franklin pulled it off. He managed to save the pilot. Oh
No,
no,
this is the
no, the
Narn. This is
Narn.
the Narn. Yeah, that he saved.
Okay,
Who doesn't get a name here, which is
just
interesting.
just Narn.
Just Narn.
So they're having Sheridan go through some survivor's guilt, which I don't know, I'm having a hard time buying. And then Kosh shows up just to tell him that you've always been here. What do you mean?
Very interesting.
So I'm having a hard time buying that a seasoned warrior would have at this moment survivor's guilt. That doesn't make sense. He was so young. If we had had more time to build up this random guy to have some more direct interaction with Sheridan, even in this episode, ideally beyond this episode, but even if he had really interacted a lot just now, um, I would have more belief that he feels conflicted about this. And so the general, he just turned on a an isolation device so that no one can hear what they're about to say in case someone was eavesdropping. And Sheridan's like, "Hey, it's been 6 months. It's about time someone debriefed me." And he's spying on them. Oh, so the purpose uh, of him being here was to make sure that everyone was loyal, is what it sounds like they're saying.
Keep listening.
And now he's talking about this being Santiago's, the president that died,
Yes.
contingency plan. And so the general mentions that not everyone is buying the party line that the president's death was an accident. And Sheridan saying, "Yeah, I'm having some problems believing that too." And so the general has mentioned that there's different factions, but they're not the ones calling the shots. That they're both assuming it's Psy-Corps, but they just can't prove it yet. Thomas, hey, how you doing, man? No, they haven't found the shapeshifters yet. So he's definitely in place there as a spy. Um, it's hard to tell by whom, because the general here has has just said that I don't know, hon. I'm trying to listen to. Yeah, Joel. No one here is exactly who he appears.
Good point, Joel.
Okay, so if I'm following this correctly, so I was listening to his final lines that he needs his answer uh, on if he's going to help the general here. Okay, so if I'm following this correctly,
This is important too.
oh gosh, okay. Calling Ivanova by her first name. Okay, so the Earth Force, from what I can tell, doesn't buy that the president's death was an accident,
Not
and that
everyone, though.
and that the party line of it all being an accident is being controlled by Psycor. And so the Sheridan, now that he's been here for 6 months, has come to know his crew and he trusts our three main characters. And that all three of them have agreed to join together and try and figure out what's going on legally for the moment and hopefully stop the Psycor. All right. All right. Well, Jeff, what are your thoughts about the episode?
This is a pivotal episode. We learn a lot about Delenn. We get clarification on her position with Membari, with her position on Babylon 5. She's no longer Satai. Uh, her own people don't trust her. They send her back to Babylon 5, where she is her only home right now. And we also learn about Sheridan here, why he's on Babylon 5, why he was sent there, and what's going to happen, what they're going to try to do in the future. So, yeah, a lot happens in this episode. It's a very, very strong episode. And I think it's a very good one.
Yeah, I mean, especially those last 5 minutes. Like, honestly, the rest of the episode is almost filler for the last 5 minutes.
It almost is. Now, we do get one thing on the alien ship. We get Sheridan's dream, which I also think is very important. And the whole part with the Mimbari is important as well. So some of
True.
it does seem like filler. The aliens seem like they're filler, the race we've never seen before. But the rest of it's all good stuff. And Patrick says almost as good as TKO. I think you're taking some of that bad juice from Omni, Patrick.
I'm gonna have to watch that dream sequence a couple times.
It's very important.
Like it's interesting that Kosh is talking about how you've always been here. Because it's like, what is here then? Is here Babylon 5? And he's trying to say, hey, your heart's always been here. Like you may not have known it, but this is a place you belong. Is Kosh somehow aware of things outside the normal flow of time? And he's trying to say that this is a place where you should be. Like your position here is so pivotal that it's like time rotates around this point, such that it's like you've always been here. Um, is this more like Cisco? Like, why do you keep coming back here? This is where you exist with the wormhole aliens.
Well, I think the first interesting thing about the dream sequence is you see Ivanova. And she has a raven perched on her shoulder, and she asks, "Do you know who I am? Who is she? Is there some
Hmm.
secret about her?"
Well, you know what? We did speculate about that. It was a while back ago now. There is a dream sequence she had. I think it may have been when her dad died and the rabbi came. Um, it may have been a different episode. I think it was that one. But she had this dream sequence where uh, the language she used brought into question about whether she herself was perhaps psychic and her mom was shielding her from being detected from the Psychor, and whether or not the mom was truly dead. Hey, John, how you doing?
Welcome,
And
John.
and so the Raven in Norse mythology was associated with Odin, uh, and more often creatures of omen and prophecy, if I recall correctly.
It's typically symbolic of death, and some instances the raven is considered a thief.
And Omni's saying that to death or assimilation. I thought that was more for Western mythology. I thought in Norse mythology it was more omenish.
The next interesting thing
Hmm.
we've already pointed out, Sheridan can be seen wearing a psychop uniform. What's
Yeah.
that mean?
So finishing the thought with the Raven here, I was wondering if um, rather than this being Ivanova, this was being a reference to Ivanova's mom, and that her psychic abilities took a form of precognition. I thought maybe they were trying to make this Odin kind of connection there, uh, and that's why she'd asked, "Do you even know who I am?" or "Do you know who I am?" With him and the Psychor thing, I was curious if this is showing a possible outcome for him, where he ends up joining the Psychor, and we kind of go down the worst path of reality, or worst timeline, or if this was more of a kind of showing that he would have to infiltrate the Psychor before all this was done.
Well, that'd be interesting, especially since he is, as far as we know, is not um, a telepath. And how would he shield his thoughts from the, the other telepaths, the Psychor?
That's true. Which could have something to do with Ironheart, maybe, I don't know.
Could could be. And
Uh,
you have Garibaldi has
with
a
the
dove on his
dove.
shoulder. Yep. And he says the man in between is searching for you. Who is the man in between?
And that's a hard one. And hey, William, how you doing? Uh, I mean, so I just I know Odin. For me, seeing the Ravens was very much immediately thought of Odin. But with the dove, you kind of got these two contrasting creatures uh, in Western myth, so to speak. You have the raven, which is a carrion bird. It's associated with death, um, usually an omen of ill things. And then you have a dove, a bird of peace and um, comfort's not the right. A bird of peace, or a symbol of peace. And so they very much do take kind of a opposing stance, symbolically at least. I still find it interesting that the dove was on Garibaldi's shoulder, just a man of war having the symbol of peace on him. Now, for the man in between, I don't think that'd be discount Rod Sterling. It seemed like honestly a man in between. Assuming we've seen him before, would strike me more as Sinclair. Sinclair being the man in between.
Or would he be the man before?
Good question. Good question. Uh,
Now
hopefully,
Ivanova, go ahead.
I said hopefully we get some more info here
Oh, we
eventually.
will. Definitely we will. One thing you'll find out about this show, it doesn't leave plot threads dangling too long, most of them anyway. You also have Ivanova saying, "You are the hand."
I got
Now we've
nothing for
heard
that one.
we've heard the hand reference before in reference to Londo. I see
Okay,
a
we
great
have.
hand reaching out of the star.
That was a very negative version of the hand, though.
Yes. So what does this hand mean?
I mean, I'd assumed that Londo was the hand, but if those two things were connected, um, it would be implied that Sheridan would be the means by which Londo carries out his campaign of ruthlessness.
That's very dark.
It would be, which is why I would. I mean, if if we're going down the darkest timeline path where he did somehow join the Psi Corps, or um, like if he tried to infiltrate it and things went bad, and maybe he became one of a thrall in the Psi Corps, and he was being like mind controlled and carrying out their orders, or if the Psi Corps just took over everything. I mean, we've talked about how their machinations are going on and they want to be in control of everything. So maybe this is looking at a timeline where they've succeeded and everyone, the Earth force is gone and it's all the core, mother, father, brother, sister, army. It's now the core. Then in that case, I could see how Sheridan does become the hand of destruction, continuing that darkest timeline thing. If they're not trying to directly correlate it like that, I could see it being an opposing hand. That you have the one hand reaching down and wiping out the millions, and then you have Sheridan as an opposing hand working against Londo. I don't know.
Then
There's
we
some.
see Kosh on the Streeb's ship out in the corridor, and Sheridan asks him, "Why are you here?" What does he mean by that? On the ship? On the Streeb ship? Or
Oh
just
yeah,
in general? Why is Kosh here? Or why is he in the dream? Or what does he mean by that?
I would assume he wasn't. A, I would assume he wasn't lucid, aware of the fact he was dreaming, and he was more confused by Kosh being on the ship. But then, Kosh waiting for him outside sickbay. That was the bigger connection point for me. Like, what's that
Well,
about?
Kosh answers, "We were never away. For the first time, your mind is quiet enough to hear me."
Mm-hmm.
And by the way, I'll point out that starting with this episode, all the voice acting for Kosh is directed exclusively by J. Michael Straczynski.
Oh, cool.
He wanted to get the right inflection right because we're starting, I think, to hear emotion in Kosh's voice,
Hmm.
which we really never got much of in the past.
Yeah, William is saying that Odin was all knowing, and Susan would approve if I suggest she's all knowing. Yeah, I don't know why Norse mythology is what came up before, like, I don't know, Edgar Allan Poe. Uh, it's not like she's Norse in ethnicity. Like Poe would fit more the Russian sort of Raven than Odin.
And then the last
Anyway,
thing Sheridan asks is, why am I here? And the answer from Kosh is, you have always been here, which we hear later in the episode outside
yeah,
of MedLab,
so
which is
fun.
interesting. So was Kosh in Sheridan's mind from light years away?
I certainly assumed he was.
It seems like it.
A good episode.
Nice setup. It was a
Yeah.
nice setup. That dream sequence is very important, I think.
Hopefully we find out soon here.
Well, like I said,
It's
most
hard
plot
waiting.
points are yeah, I know it's hard waiting, and I told you this is going to get really good, and you're not going to stop watching.
Yeah. Um, but hey, good news is at least through the next couple weeks here, I shouldn't have any conflicts, so we'll keep it coming.
Okay. Okay. We're actually, I think, going to be a little bit ahead of where I thought we would be at the end of the year. So yeah, good job.
Yes. I think there may be 1 week coming up here. Uh, I'm hoping that I get to do remote support for it. Um, but even if I do remote support, I'm gonna have to cancel the stream. Just I say cancel. I'm not gonna be able to do the stream because I will be on Florida time. Actually, the next place will be out in Florida, so
Oh,
I will be up.
John's time.
Yeah, I will be up even early compared to what I am right now. Like I've been very consistent waking up in the 5 a.m. hours, um, and loving it. It's so weird. It's so weird to be on this side of life now. Um, but it's gonna be like 100% like 12-hour days sort of stuff, and I won't have any bandwidth for doing it. But that's not for several weeks. So
Okay. It's interesting. We've seen aliens somewhat like the Streebs before, but they weren't the Streebs. They were the Vree. We saw Vree in the episode Grail in the courtroom. The guy was trying to sue the Vree alien for abducting his great great grandfather or something.
yes,
And
I remember that.
they're distant relatives, the two races, but they're not the same race.
I I did find it extremely funny that the race that was abducting people was the classic grays.
Yes, yes.
Like, all right, okay,
Well,
well done.
and if you look closely at the scene where we see the stream, it doesn't look very convincing. They tried to hide
Yeah,
it, but I don't think they put much money into the costume.
yeah, it definitely it definitely looked rough. Like
I think
when he
they
came up
knew
and did the Kirk chop against the back of the neck, it was okay.
I think they knew that they were probably not going to have the race again on the show. So and just for that one scene, they could have probably just cut that scene. They probably didn't need it, but so they didn't put much money into it.
I mean, there's something about the campiness that it worked in that moment. Like
Okay.
for me, the fact that it was a traditional gray alien, and then you come out and they're wearing obviously suit like you would have from some B sci-fi film. Like for me, that really worked together.
Okay. Yeah, I can see that. But I think
Uh,
it's funny what they called them. This is the stream based off
yeah.
of Whitley Strieber.
And Josh is saying, since Ivanova is Russian, wouldn't the Raven mean trickery, fertility, or shamanism? Uh, and so honestly, like I said, I went immediately to Norse mythology for some reason, but um, as much as I have to give JMS credit where credit is due, I much more think that he would write the symbology for the Western audience it was aimed at rather than really being like, oh, hey, I'm going to have this be a reference to North mythology or Serbian mythology. I wouldn't put it past them to do that. I just think that, push come to shove, talking odds are he wrote it for the Western audience.
Well, time will tell.
It will. Well, Jeff, thanks so much for hanging out with me this evening.
Do you have a prediction for the next episode?
Oh, yes, a prediction for next episode. So obviously, wrong on all counts for this episode.
Well, you can't get them all.
Okay, so Acts of Sacrifice is going to be next week. This is season 2, episode 12. And honestly, with a title like Acts of Sacrifice, that would almost work better for what we saw at the end of Gropos, where you saw the cost of sacrifice. Yeah, the next episode will take place on Babylon 5, Texas. You have been watching too many of my streams. You can't be stealing my material, man.
Joel, no spoilers in the chat, please. I'm glad that went to a review.
So Acts of Sacrifice. We could continue the plot line with Dolores, and we can see kind of the growing ramifications of her no longer being Satai and how she's having to sacrifice for people that do not care for her, humans or Mbari. But I also can't help but notice that JMS kind of likes to jump from point to point, such that everything feels like it's happening concurrently. Like we don't focus overly long on any one plot line they got going on. Like we don't do lots of side core stuff, lots of what's going on with Londo stuff. It's always, hey, this episode's focused over here, this focus over here, and it definitely creates that air that you just have everything spinning up in the air right now. And oh, look, this plate's slowing down, so you got to spin it a little bit. And oh, this plate's slowing down, so you spin it. And so it makes it feel like everything is happening at the same time. So I say that, but at the same time, I do think we will have to follow up on the meeting they just had as the command crew. There's got to be ramifications for that. I can see that being a bit of the B plot for next week. Happening in the background is how they're being affected as they follow the plot line of how do we prove the Psychor is doing stuff. In terms of the A plot, and I think the A plot is probably going to be where we get our title of Acts of Sacrifice. I think this is going to be Jakar focused. That he is trying to work hard to get people to open their eyes about what's going on here, and it's starting to cost him connections. All the political clout that he's been trying to build up is being spent, and I think he's going to have another one of those crossroad moments where he has to choose: is he going to pursue political advancement, or is he willing to set that aside for winning some sort of battle's not the right word, but like battle's all I got, a battle for the way things are going in the universe right now. More of an emotional, spiritual battle than a literal, I'm duking it out with someone. So I think that's what we'll see for Acts of Sacrifice next week.
Sounds intriguing. We'll see how close you got.
So guys, yeah, thanks for hanging out with us, and I look forward to seeing you next week, which is still not going to be December.
Not quite.
Still not just quite. In November. At our usual hour of scampering. Y'all take care.
See you next week, everyone. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, please be sure to hit that like button and share it with your friends. If you haven't subscribed yet, I hope you will, and be sure to hit that bell icon to be notified of all the updates I do on this channel. If you want to support the work I'm doing here, then I hope you'll consider becoming one of my Patreons, where you'll get early access to all kinds of videos. And until the next time, may the Lord bless you and keep you. May he cause his face to shine upon you and be gracious to you. May the Lord lift up his countenance upon you and give you peace. Amen.